Tier Elements locks down for its first win ever for a YCS. We have Thunder Dragon showing back out of the woodwork, and Bystial makes a huge splash on the format. Let's dig on into your weekend YCS breakdown. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We have our top 32 breakdown here out of Minneapolis. We had 17 tier elements breaking that interesting 50% mark, now pushing that deck into a very high representation, which is actually very scary. Of those variants, we had 5 Bystial, 2 Sprite, a Despy, a Branded, and a Scareclaw variant. So definitely you're going to get a lot of ground here in terms of just seeing tier, and that's amazing. This is all pre-Ishizu, by the way. For Sprite, we had 9 of them in Top Cut. Yikeroos, man. That is definitely a lot more than I really expected to see in your Top Cut. Actually, some kind of horrifyingly frightening numbers there, of which, of those 9, we had at least 1 adventure and 2 runic builds. Now, the runic package has definitely been the more dominating build that we have seen as of late, because, I mean, it just won the UK Open this weekend, and then all of a sudden you don't see this build anywhere doing anything relevantly over here. I almost wonder if that's a deck that it does better on the other side of the world. We also had 3 Flaunderies in Top Cut. Flounder made it all the way to 2nd place, which, you know what, I'm going to clap for that. That's an amazing showing. It's been so long since Flounder has had the chance to make it relatively far in a tournament. I'm actually incredibly happy about that. We also had Bystial engines that were specifically listed. Now, of these 2, one of them was a Dragon Link list, and then one of them was a Thunder Dragon list. Yes, Thunder Dragons got the chance to make a showing, which is amazing. And then we had 1 lone Exosister player creep on in to Top Cut as well, and only 1 Exosister. That's incredibly, like, frightening to see that turnaround here. Top 16 here, we had 8 tier elements. Holy moly, like, talk about just the, they lost a large number, but, like, that's still a relatively large number of tier holding on into that next level of Top Cut here. We had 5 Sprite in top 16 as well, which that's also another amazing turnaround here. Like, ugh. Now, we only lost 1 Flaunderies list advancing into top 16 here, so 2 Flounder players were sticking around, and then we did lose the Thunder Dragon list, which I think is fine, but Bystial Dragon Link did advance into top 16. So once again, you see that Bystial package allowed this rogue contender the chance to sit at the dinner table here and actually hold on to the metagame, and kind of show that we could do something a little bit different, which I think is actually quite good at the end of the day here. Now, things get very interesting once you get into top 8 here. Top 8 is a 50% split to tier elements. What do you want me to tell you, ladies and gentlemen? That tier isn't a very, very scary deck, because unfortunately it is. That deck is a massive powerhouse. All right, we had 2 mono, 1 branded, and 1 Sprite variant in Top Cut. Now, as for Sprite, you had mono in the runic package, of course. So yeah, 2 Sprite holding on here. And then those 2 Flaunderies players from top 16 advanced on in to, you guessed it, your top 8 as well. So looking at your pie chart here, I'm not surprised. I am glad to see that Flounder is finally getting the chance to, you know, use those D-shifters appropriately and make some headway in the metagame here, because Flounder has, I guess it's needed the chance to have a very strong matchup in order to get off the ground and kind of capitalize on that placement here. Now, top 4, you're going to see here that you had tier advance, you had Flounder advance as well, and then you see that on the opposite side of the table here, you had Sprite and tier advance as well. And then the finals ended up being none other than Flaunderies versus tier, and then tier took down the win getting them their first actual win, which is very, very nice to see. So that is your breakdown of the YCS. We're going to pass on over so you guys can see some of those top deck profiles and really kind of how this format has shaped up to be the weirdness that it really is. Hi, Edit Robbie here. This is Marcus Hayden's first place list has now finally been made public here. But 1 heartbeat in the main, 2 in the side, which is kind of interesting. And we're playing Triple Grief. This lets you special summon Tier Elements monster or advice Frost from your deck or graveyard, and then you send 1 monster you control to the graveyard with the same type or attribute as that special summon monster. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you target one of your banished Tier Elements traps and add it back to your hand. So this actually gets you some pretty decent recurability here. We are also only playing the 1 Scream here. I think a few people might be taken back by that, and then in real fashion here, we are playing the Sprite package in here as well. So this is basically going to remind you of Orcus Sky Striker, where you're going to use like the best of both packages here. And I mean, Nimble Angler getting the dump off of the Sprint. Sprint now kind of bridges the gap for this deck. So you're able to start through this combo and do, basic tier stuff. And then you get to go ahead and step on down from, Nimble Angler and the Nimble Beaver. And of course, underlying extra synergy here, same type or attribute. So hi Nimble Angler, we open the Angler, send it, congratulations. We can now go ahead and basically do full combo at that point. So actually seeing that this won first place, I'm not surprised, and especially since we have the Bystial package in here, able to kind of counteract and handle a majority of the situations. Yeah, it's not bad. All right, we're going to pass them back over so you can see some of those other deck lists. All right, the first list we're going to be looking at here was top 32, Alyse Davis's Tier Elements list. Now, from my understanding here, we've seen a lot of Cartesia out of this weekend. This card just kind of found its way into a lot of these lists, covered a lot of ground, and I see that we also had the Night Sword Serpent over here actually getting the chance to step up here. If a card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Actually, seeing just immense amount of work that this card put in over the weekend. I also saw that we had Tier Elements Heartbeats down here as well, getting the chance to kind of step on into the light here. A lot of people have told me this card is very, very, very good versus Runic, so that's actually quite nice to hear. And then, of course, you get the chance to see why Tier Elements Scream is an amazing card here. Outside of that, this list feels very, very, very good pre-Ishizu. I like a lot of the powerhouse like tech choices you see here, and of course, TCG loves Brandon and High Spirits. Getting the chance to search for Cartesia, absolutely free real estate for this deck. Next up here is one of our first Flaunderies list here. Now, this build actually is kind of interesting because we're playing Duality with 1 Extrav and triple Prosperity. A little bit interesting tech choices there in terms of the pot usage, but I do feel that, I guess having the 1 Extrav in the deck gives you access to this, all right? So say something goes wrong along the way, you need some draw power. It's a one of, all right? It's not going to hinder you. I also like the fact this build was able to make it as far as it did because something like Evenly Match is one of those clutch cards. Do not underestimate how good that this card can be, all right? I also like the fact we're main decking the Harpy's Feather Duster. We're on triple Dark Ruler and no more as well. I mean, this deck should have you pretty easily covered for what you want to do, and of course, a good old Ultimate Slayer down here to kind of clean up some of the more BS that you might encounter along the way. Honestly, outside of that, looks pretty straightforward to me. Next up here is another tier list. Now, this is where high rate draw still sees play here. We've seen this kind of show up as a tech choice, but destroy 2 or more monsters you control, and if you do, draw a card for every 2 monsters destroyed. All right, and then during your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, set this card but banish it and leaves the field. And then, of course, you already know, we're doing the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation plays. Foolish Burial Goods drop this, go search for your field spell. You get access to the Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise, which is an aqua monster as well for this deck. Oh man, let me tell you, I've seen this show up. It amuses me every time that I see this do well, and it's just one of those really interesting interactions in the game that you're just like, oh yeah, you managed to play the bricks because the value you get for playing those bricks is so amazing. Definitely is the Garnet effect, absolutely. Next up here is, oh hey, we're playing Cap Shell, not in an runic list. That's kind of nice. I mean, hey, it still says draw a card. So this is Sprite with the Bystial package in it. Trust me. The bare minimum of this is what? 2 Magnuma, 1 Druis Worm. You see here that we're doing the 3 Magnuma, the 1 Druis Worm. Yeah, the spot removal options that this package gives you, absolutely worth it. This is also one of the few lists that I've seen that actually gives 2 craps about playing Droll and Lockbird. I will say that it is kind of nice to see Droll kind of stepping on out here and getting the chance to do some work here. Then we have good old Nimble Angler, sent to the graveyard from hand or deck. You know who facilitates full combo for this? Good old Sprite Sprint here. Getting the free dump on this gets you your extension options and sets you up for this. It's so disgusting, like how much value that one particular engine can generate for a deck. All right. Next up here is we're doing pretty much the same thing here. Okay, so for this though, they went way more extended on the Bystial package. They didn't want to dilly-dally on this. They were like, you know what, triple Magnum, triple Druis Worm, we'll take care of it. Not a problem. We're also playing Trap Trick for 2 copies of Scythe. That's kind of cute actually. And then 1 Smasher's in the main, 1 on the side, that's fine. We're playing the Prosperities for the filtering options, and we're siding the D-Shifters. Once again, do not underestimate how good Dimension Shifter is in a format like this, because you need those power cards in order to set up and then disrupt your opponent. And you're going to get just that here. So kudos for this deck, getting the chance to see play. A lot more streamlined than the previous builds that we've seen so far, but I think that's perfectly fine. Next up, wow, we're just going to go triple Sprite back to back to back here. Now, your difference is on this. This is the first list that I've seen of all of these that we're playing Fenrir. I've talked about the Fenrir is an absolutely insane card in my opinion, and I do stick to that. The fact that, yeah, a special summon of this plus, you know, Sprite Monster is typically full Sprite combo, but if you do get the chance to leave this on the field, depending on how you open up, you will get a lot of value off of this. We are also playing the Sprite Double Cross here. Target 1 monster on the field or in either graveyard to activate one of these effects. So you can attach the targeted monster to a rank 2 monster control. You can place the targeted monster your opponent controls in your zone your link 2 points to and take control of it, or you can swap some of the targeted monster from either graveyard to your zone your link 2 points to. Alright, so think about that. Absolutely such crazy power on a trap card, and it amazes me once again a lot of these decks don't even choose to play this because it's a trap card. All right, why search for this when you can search for Smashers? Next up here is a tier list, but this is with King of the Swamp. This is one of the first times I think I've seen King of the Swamp get the chance to actually do something in a very long time, and it is quite nice. We're only playing 1 Scream, and we're actually main decking a Heartbeat here as well. What are we doing? If this card sets the graveyard and inflict 500 damage to your opponent, we're just playing this just as a level 2. Just put it on the field, link out with it, ping your opponent for 200. That's hilarious. All right, and once again, you do see that we are playing Blazing Cartesia here for the Brandon and High Spirits. I heard jokes about people wanting to go back to Des Frog after this weekend, reject, you know, Ru Carlos, go back to Froggeroo. Honestly, outside of that, for the rest of the way that this deck is pretty much looking, very, very tacked out version compared to a lot of the other variants that we've seen in the metagame, but nonetheless, still a monster of a deck. And then last but not least is your Flounder list that ended up getting second place here. You once again see those evenly matches showing up here, kind of showing the format that, hey, you know, this card's good. You have Feather Storms down here. You have Lightning Storms main decked, by the way. And of course, we got some Mystic Minds to kind of slow down the pace of the format. And I see that we also have Triple Tactics Talents in here. We're also side decking the Unexplored Winds as well. Not too bad overall, though. So that's your wrap up for the YCS. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later on the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.